Thank you for being here for this presentation. Today's topic for discussion, becoming a more beautiful world, evaluating our cemented assumptions. The price that we pay for our assumptions are devastating. Lives are altered, lives are destroyed for a lifetime because of our assumptions. You know, our assumptions take place approximately 30,000 times every day, according to research. Now, how many of you believe that your assumptions are 100% correct? When it comes to race and assumptions, unconsciously, it takes us less than 1 second to form an opinion about someone of a different race. And in most cases, the platform is negatively stated. An assumption is one's firm belief without proof, yet we swear our assumptions are real. But why must we burden ourselves with assumptions? Why not seek clarity from the mind? Well, we cannot, because the mind only knows what has been placed into the mind. So if we can't get the answer from the mind, we must make assumptions. Before we go to bed, we assume that we are going to awake the next morning. We have an itinerary for the next day. No one believes that they will die anytime soon, and some of us believe we'll never die. But you know, it's a good thing that we do not consider dying anytime soon. We'd be miserable. Yet we all have heard this much. Live your life as if it were the last day. No. You're living confusion. You'd be like a chicken with your head cut off. You wouldn't know what to do. Most of us would sit around praying. Now, let's say you attend a funeral of someone that you know. Let's say you're an elderly person, say 80 years of age. And you're at that funeral, and you see your friend lying in their true suit, and you say, oh my God, I'm going to die. That could be me in my true suit, and people would be at my funeral. You know, I thought I'd never die. Look how old I am. I thought I'd live as long as Methuselah, and now I'm going to die. And you may say something like this: where did all of the sunrises and sunsets go? Bring them back. I need them. I need more time. Now, we do not definitively know that there is a God, that there's a heaven or hell. So we must assume, and that's a good thing. Let's take hell, though. If you knew for certain that hell did not exist, would you be ethical? Would you be moralistic? Well, why should you? There would be no consequence if there was no hell. You wouldn't burn in hell. But let's flip that statement over and go to heaven. You have been mistreated here on earth. You've been in poverty. And you say, well, at least I've been living with righteousness. I have enjoyed every letter of the Bible. I'm a Christian. You know, when I leave this earth, I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to be there with my loved ones, with my friends. Oh, we're going to have eternity together. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you believe that someone will not forgive you for a hideous act that you did to them and you knew that you were going to hurt them? Well, here's what happens. You assume that you would not forgive them for such an immoral act. So you say, they're not going to forgive me. And how many of us assume that someone should have our values? They should think like we do. If we go to church every Sunday, so should they. If not, they're wretched. Even if they have a good reason, you'll say, no, that's nothing but a pretext. You could go to church. Now, where do we contract this behavior of assumption? Well, let's go to a baby. Now, a baby assumes this much. If I cry, my mother will pick me up, hold me in her loving arms, or give me a warm bottle of milk. All I got to do is cry. That's my assumption. Our assumptions lead to a wealth of negative behaviors: fear, hatred, violence, jealousy, indifference, and so many more immoralities of society, all because we make assumptions. Now, listen to this. The former renowned motivator, Wayne Dyer, said this much about assumptions, and I quote, The highest form of ignorance is when you reject something you don't know anything about. Quote closed. Now, about assumptions and the emotional platform of pain that it can carry. I was the brainchild of a volunteer educational program in New Orleans to improve the lives of nonviolent inmates. Well, I surmised this much, that if I could start a GED program, this would help the inmates so when they are released from incarceration, they'll be able to seek employment. Well, now, I assumed that I would have maybe 20 people coming volunteering, teachers, retired teachers, I should say, and maybe college students to help with this. Now, I named the program Operation Hope, Help Orleans Prison Emerge. I was disappointed when only 4 people came to teach. We're talking about GED subjects. I was crestfallen, devastated, very hurt. This program, this GED program, was featured on NBC Today show because at the time, Orleans Parish Prison was one of the worst urban prisons anywhere in the world. But I was disappointed because no one wanted to help. Now, let's go to the House of Proverbs, room 18. And we have a reserved seat, number 13, up front. And we hear this much about assumptions. If one gives an answer before one hears, it is his folly and shame. Let me put a little icing on that statement. Anyone who would answer before listening either thinks they themselves are really smart, or they just don't care much at all about the person to whom they are supposed to be listening to. Simply put, and we've all heard this, it is better to understand than to be understood. It is better to listen than to speak, because if you talk to someone and don't listen, you can ask probes, you can seek clarity. Now, listen to this. 2 young ladies are chit-chatting. One says to the other one, "Girlfriend, when are you going to get you an old man like me? You're very attractive. I don't know what's wrong with you. You're going to be an old hen pretty soon. Nobody wants an old hen." Now, her friend says, "I don't know. I can't find anyone to love. I'd like to have someone to love." Yes, you can. Let me tell you, there's a nightclub that you can go to. And let me tell you, I'll pass by there. Oh, those beautiful cars out there. And I heard that some of these dudes in there are so handsome, they got so much money, you could burn a wet mule. And how do you think I found my old man? Well, I found my old man at a nightclub. So you can find one there. Just go. Well, I don't have anything to wear. Listen, girlfriend, you can wear one of my beautiful dresses. You can put on some of my jewelry, and all you have to do is go get your hairstyle, take your time with the makeup, put on some of that sweet smelling perfume, and you will get yourself a suitor. You'll see. Well, she goes there with the assumption that someone will probably come up to her and say, "Hey, I'd like to know you better, sweetheart." But it doesn't happen. And a few people asked her, "Would you like to dance?" And that's about it. Now, she really assumed that someone would say something like this: "How you good looking? What you got cooking? Oh, would you like to cook up something with me?" Oh, no. So now her assumptions were not correct. And she's devastated because the negative assumption is this: "I don't look well. I'm never going to find anyone to love me. I might as well give up." Take this case of someone smoking, and it's a young couple. They are engaged, and the lady says to the gentleman, "Hey, why don't you give up smoking? It's not good for you. You're going to get lung cancer." And he shoots back, "No, I don't think so. I saw on television where only 48% of people who smoke cigarettes contract lung cancer. I'll be okay." And the young lady said, "But still, do you assume that you're going to be in that 52% that will not get cancer?" "Well, yeah, maybe." "Okay, when we get married, I'll probably stop." Now, she assumes that she can coerce him when they do get married. But he says to himself, once we are married, I'll assume that my old lady's not going to leave me. She's not going to end the marriage. So you have two assumptions there. Now let's go to the scriptures to get a thought about assumption. Let's go to the house of John, room 7, reserved seat number 24. And it tells us this much about assumptions. Do not judge by appearance, but with right judge. Don't judge exterior. You must try to go into the mind, into the inner side of someone. But we all make judgments, don't we? We look at someone and we say, oh, that's a good-looking person. They must be beautiful inside. We don't even know. But what else can we do? We have all heard this adage, don't judge a book by its covers. And we do, but that's a good one. Now listen, how many of you will refuse to go into an urban city? You say, no, I'm not going there. I'm not crazy. If I go in there, some of those young people will cut my throat quicker than a duck can pluck a June bug. And some of the others will say, oh, they'll steal my hubcaps for my vehicle quicker than a lamb can shake its tail. Oh, I'm not going in there. Now your assumptions are misplaced. Okay, let's take this. And this is a misguided, cemented assumption that involves me. In 2005, I left New Orleans to escape Hurricane Katrina. On my way home, and I had to come through here. And I saw a sign that said, Hurricane Katrina evacuees. Come seek shelter here at our Civic Center. We're glad to have you. And I said, no, I'm going to go on, to my hometown. Well, my light started flickering. I said, what? This was at night. And my back was killing me anyway. So I said, why not? So I go to the shelter. And I was housed in a room with maybe 400 people of all races, all ages. And it was like the beds were like 6 feet apart. And in other words, it was like a military, a barracks, a little small couch, no partition. Everybody slept in their clothing. So one morning I woke. I'm outside thinking about everything that I have lost. I lost everything in Hurricane Katrina, and I'm really, really depressed. And I saw some of my friends on TV just died, drowned. Okay, while I'm outside searching my mind, here comes a young man and approaching me. Hello, mister. This is your wallet. I don't know your name. I didn't open it up. But I know it's yours. It was on top of the bed. You see, my family and I sleep about 3 beds from you. Is that a big deal? Yes. Here's why. Suppose this young man had not given me my wallet. Someone else would have taken it and thrown it away or something. Well, I'd have been in serious trouble. Here's why. It took maybe 6 hours to contact the bank credit cards because there were maybe 800,000 people had been displaced and they all were trying to get their address changed. Now, here's the deal. Here's my assumption. I had assumed that this young man was noxious. I'd seen him outside a couple of days, music loud, new hairstyle, earring, baggy pants, and so forth. I said, no, I wouldn't want to be around that young man. Beautiful personality. You see how assumptions can be misplaced. Now, about 100 citizens came to the shelter center every day to assist the evacuees. They came there and said, we're going to wash your clothes twice a week. Put them in a big bag and your name on it, and so forth. We're going to help you to seek employment. We'll take you there if you don't have a way to get there. We're going to provide entertainment for your children. We're going to give you vouchers so you can take your children to eat at fast food eateries. Now listen to this. On the tables, and there were about 3 tables. One table was for everybody to have toiletries. The other table was for women, feminine hygiene and so forth. But the last table was for men contraceptives. I guess they figured, well, you got a group of people. They might do a few other things. They invited people to go worship with them. Hey, we're coming to pick you up. Please come. We'd love to have you. Now listen, they actually took in people to live in their homes with them. I think it was about 41. Now, what's the big deal about that? Well, here's the big deal. The people who came to that center every day, like I said, maybe 100 of them, did not look like me, not a single one of them. And the people, 65% of the evacuees looked like me. So these people did not look like us, yet they were empathetic. I would have never assumed that, not in this one horse town. No. See how assumptions can be misguided. Now, when we assume something without a slither of proof, we feed toxic elements into our conscience, into our heart. We unknowingly embellish toxic stress, overwhelming stress. Our negative thoughts signal the brains to release a chemical known as adrenaline. Adrenaline can destroy you from a health standpoint. It can lead to strokes, diabetes, migraines, inflammation, heart attacks, hypertension, and so many other health issues. Adrenaline, you see, is there to help us. Listen, we all have heard this much. Fight or flight. So adrenaline said, I'm going to give you astronomical energy so you can protect yourself. Well, I can tell you about that because it was with me, still with me. You see, when you get stressed out, the adrenaline thinks that someone is trying to hurt you. So here comes that adrenaline. Not so. And then you start getting worse. Here's what happens to you when that adrenaline goes into your blood system. You can't sleep for maybe 6 or 7 days. I know this much too well. And you say, I just want to go to sleep. There's some medicine they can give you to mitigate the adrenaline in your body. It has to dissipate, and it takes about 4 or 5 days to dissipate. Because the adrenaline thinks it's doing you a favor. And let me tell you something else. You get stings all over your body, like bumblebee stings. You get electrical shock pain all over, from your forehead down to your feet. I mean, just like you've been shocked. And this is consistent. It does not stop. Like I said, it'll go for a number of days. And then if you get stressed out again, here it comes again. Nothing we can do. I could author a book on stress and the damage to the body by adrenaline. To assume it's a sudden judgment of someone or someone's race, or someone's sexual orientation, someone's religious beliefs, someone's gender, someone's educational status. We judge them. You see, if you assume, it's nothing more than judging somebody. You don't have clarity. Let me tell you about that. When I was up here, after I was here for about 2 months, I was so depressed, just strung out with depression. And I said, you know what? You're ready to end your life. You better find someone. Get someone to be your friend, to talk to, tell you that you matter and that you exist. Well, I would ask people, would you be my friend? I don't know. Well, put me on probation like a judge. Okay. After maybe 2 months thereafter, what do you think about me? I don't think anything. I know this. You're always putting your opinion in the newspaper in those op-eds. They don't correlate with my thesis. I believe you're pernicious. I really do. I don't know anything about you. Well, how about just giving me a little, no, not going to give you any more time. You're just no good. That's it. And I'll assume that. Now, here's what happened. I assumed that God told him, say, hey, just throw Clifton Andrew Castile away, just like he was yesterday's trash. I really believe that. because I'm so depressed I'd believe anything. Now, it takes about 60 hours to vaguely know a few facts about someone. 60 hours. We don't give them 60 hours before we come up with an assumption, mostly negative. Now, about assumptions. Listen to this. Someone trying to help me, and I just sort of dismissed them. I was at a car dealership, a Ford dealership. A tall, attractive, articulate black sales lady was employed to sell cars at this dealership. Now, she saw I was so depressed after I was talking with her, and I think she said, I can help him. Maybe she thought I was a nut, maybe instead of being depressed. Anyway, she said, Mr. Castillo, come and worship with my family. Come to our church. I did a couple of Sundays, and I said, this is fruitless. God doesn't want me to be happy. I don't even think I exist. Now, only thing I remembered and said, oh, that's so nice, you can drive a stick shift vehicle. Now, Don Miguel Ruiz states this much about assumptions. I quote, all the sadness, drama one has lived in one's life, in most cases, are rooted in one's assumption. We listen and choose what we please, and 95% of what we have stored in our minds are nothing but lies and junk, unquote. And I would add this, we'll keep those false assumptions cemented in our mind unless something comes along to invalidate our thoughts, and then we just might say, no, it's something else. Now, listen to this. I had a good friend who said, Cliff, come and stay with Connie and me. His name was Floyd. I said, no. Well, Cliff, why don't you turn to prayers? I don't want any of that. You see, Floyd, God is out to get me. And the reason God is punishing me is because I didn't do enough volunteer work. I promised God I would do more volunteer work. And if you ask me, Floyd, God brought Hurricane Katrina to New Orleans in 2005 just to punish me. I know so many lives were lost, property was destroyed, but he got me back, saying, I'm going to put you in hell here on earth. Now, some of you always say, boy, he was depressed. Others would say, no, he was a certified nut. Okay, consider this much. Here's the case. Someone says, my significant other is perfidious. You don't have any proof that your significant other is being unfaithful. That's your assumption. You're going to destroy a relationship. Consider this. Say that you are a white teacher and you're teaching black children. And your assumptions would be this. Oh, they don't want to learn. And black kids cannot learn. Well, your assumption will be correct. Not because they cannot learn or do not want to learn, simply because you will not put forth the efforts to teach them. Now, as a parent, you'll say something like this. I assume that when I'm old, I will not have to go to a nursing home. Oh, my kids will take care of me. Say with social media, you said, well, I'm going to post what I did last week. Boy, I saw this elderly gentleman walking across the street. His knees gave out. I couldn't pick him up. So I darted out there and I just pulled him to safety because I saw that 18-wheeler coming. Now, you assume that if you put this on social media, say on Facebook, that you would get a lot of likes and comments. That's what you really want to say. Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm going to do the same thing. We can use Facebook as a pad to encourage people to do good. But it doesn't happen. You only get 2 likes, no comments. And you suddenly remember that sweet Polly Pureed posts anything and she gets 1,000 likes. And you say, I remember once she put this on social media. Every time I let my little boy go out and play, he's 6 years old. I come back and there he is digging into the earth, finding earthworms. And he eats worms, something like 4 or 5 worms. Now, people will say, oh, I like that, but they don't. If you notice, they don't put any comments because here would be one of the comments. You take a strap to that little booger. No, that will end it. But that's what happens. Now, our mind is composed of 2 systems. They're called System 1 and System 2, and they both make decisions. Every decision we make comes from one of those systems. Now, let's talk about system one. System one is done mechanically, automatically, with little thinking, and we use system one 90 to 95% of our decision making. Let's go to system two. Well, this is the opposite. This is where we engage in deep thinking, critical thinking, analytical thinking, and we use system two only about 5 to 10% of our decision making. Let's go back to system one. You're ready to cross the street. You look at the traffic light, it's in your favor, so you just go. Now, you don't have time to sit there and say, oh, I wonder, is that approaching car going to stop? No. If so, you get nothing done. If we use system two daily, and say 95% of the time, we wouldn't get anything done. Now, let's go to system two. You go to purchase a vehicle. The salesperson say, hey, it's $55,000. Why so much? Well, it's got a lot of accessories in it. And you say, well, do you have the same vehicle without all accessories? But you're going to need those accessories. Well, how much is the vehicle without the accessories? Oh, it's $5,000 less. Okay, now, this is not where you'll use your assumptions, system one, and say, oh, I know I'm going to need those accessories. No, you'll use system two. You say, I'll be back, going home, and you call up some of your friends who have a vehicle, something similar to that, and say, do you use all of those accessories and so forth? Now, is it possible to get rid of our assumptions? No, and we should not, because if we could, it would be devastating. You see, our system and our assumption, I'm talking about system one, keeps us safe. Now, they do overreact, don't go there, don't go there. And sometimes it's a good thing. So what should we do with our assumptions? Here, why not use our assumptions, something like this? I'll assume that I can make this a better world. I can use my thoughts to eradicate poverty and so forth, but I don't know what to do. Oh, I know, I'll turn it over to my little sister, system two. She'll know what to do because she'll analyze and come up with a plan. And system two say, thank you, big brother. I got it from here. I know what we can do to make this a better world. Now, what else can we do? Well, we can do this. Don't rush to judgment. Learn to listen before you speak. Ask queries, probes, and consider this much. Not only are your thoughts and your feelings correct, but other people also correct in their thesis about life. Just not you. And know this much. You can apologize after you have made the incorrect assumptions about somebody. Just go to them and say, please, let me apologize. Okay. If you enjoyed this presentation, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and we can notify you when additional information becomes available. And press that like button if you like this presentation. If not, please leave comments so we can have a more fruitful world and we can do all this together. Share this information. I am Clifton Andrew Castile, and I assume that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for listening.